So, when are you going to give me back my $600,000? I screamed those words in the middle of my son's wedding reception, and the entire ballroom froze. The guests were in shock, their champagne glasses suspended in the air. My son, Ethan, hissed between his teeth. "Shut up. No one is giving you anything back." That was when a man in a black suit at the back of the room stood up slowly and said in a firm, clear voice, "I think everyone here deserves to know the truth about this $600,000. My son tried to run for the exit, but two people blocked him. Vanessa, my daughter-in-law, the radiant bride in her ivory-colored dress, put her hand to her chest, and her eyes rolled back. She fainted at the altar, falling like a dead weight onto her bouquet of white roses. Chaos erupted, shouts, crying. Vanessa's mother screaming for someone to call an ambulance. The groomsmen running back and forth, not knowing what to do. And me. I just stood there in the middle of it all, feeling 3 years of humiliation and pain finally exploding in front of 200 people. But how did I get there? How does a mother who loved her son with all her soul end up destroying his wedding? Let me take you to the beginning of this nightmare. My name is Monica. I am 64 years old, and my entire life, I was what you would call a good woman. Hardworking, honest, sacrificial. Those words defined me. I was widowed 12 years ago when my husband died of a heart attack, leaving me alone with our son, Ethan, who was then 23 years old. My husband had been a good man, but he didn't leave much. A small house that we had paid off with a 30-year mortgage and some savings that barely covered the funeral and 3 months of expenses. I worked as an administrator at an import-export company. 40 years at that company. 40 years of getting up at 5 in the morning to take 2 buses to get to work on time. 40 years of packing my own lunch in plastic containers because eating out was a luxury I couldn't afford. But it was worth it. Every penny I saved, every sacrifice I made, every extra hour I worked was to build something solid, to have security, so that my son could have a future. When I retired 5 years ago, I had managed to save up $650,000. $650,000 that represented 40 years of my life. 40 years of saying no to vacations, to nice restaurants, to new clothes. 40 years wearing the same mended coat every winter. 40 years walking extra blocks to not spend money on a cab. Every dollar held the weight of my sweat, my sleepless nights, my chapped hands from washing my own clothes instead of taking them to the laundromat. Ethan knew. My son knew exactly how much every dollar of those savings had cost. He saw me come home exhausted from work for years. He saw me make dinner with whatever was left in the refrigerator at the end of the month. He saw me sew my own dresses because buying new clothes was unthinkable. And still, when he met Vanessa 3 years ago, all that sacrifice, all that love, all that effort stopped mattering to him. The first time I saw Vanessa was at a family dinner Ethan organized at my house. She arrived in sky-high heels and a pink dress that probably cost more than my monthly salary. Her hair was perfectly styled, her nails impeccable, her makeup like something out of a magazine. I was in the kitchen finishing the roast chicken. When she walked in without saying hello, she looked around with an expression she couldn't hide, but said, just loud enough for me to hear, "It's cozy." That word, cozy, which we all know is code for small, old, and poor. Ethan was infatuated with her, completely blind. Vanessa worked, so she said, in digital marketing. She was 28 years old then, 5 years younger than my son, and she talked constantly about her projects, her connections, her million-dollar business plans. During that first dinner, she didn't say a single word to me. She only spoke to Ethan. She only touched his arm. She only laughed with him. I was invisible, just another piece of furniture in my own home. After that dinner, I told Ethan, very carefully, "Son, I don't think Vanessa felt comfortable here." He exploded. "Mom, you're always like this. Always criticizing the people I know. Vanessa is amazing. She's successful. She has vision. And you can only see the negative." Those words hurt me more than I can express. I had never criticized anyone in his life. I had only made an observation. But Ethan was already under her spell. The following months were a painful transformation to watch. My son, who used to visit me 3 times a week, started coming once every 2 weeks. then once a month. The daily phone calls became sporadic, and when he finally did call, it was to talk about Vanessa, about how wonderful she was, how smart, how she was helping him grow professionally. I just listened, feeling my son slipping away from me like sand through my fingers. It was 6 months after that first dinner when the first request for money came. Ethan came to my house one Sunday afternoon. He came alone. He sat on the living room sofa, the same sofa where I had rocked him as a baby, and said, "Mom, Vanessa has an incredible business opportunity. She's going to open a designer clothing boutique. It's a safe investment. In a year, you'll see how the money multiplies. She just needs $150,000 to start." $150,000. I felt like I had been punched in the stomach. That was almost a quarter of my entire savings. Of everything I had built in 40 years. Ethan saw my expression and quickly added, "It's a loan, Mom. We'll pay you back with interest. In 6 months, a year at most." Vanessa already has everything calculated. The suppliers, the location, the clients. It's a slam dunk. I should have said no right then. I should have trusted my gut, which was screaming at me that something wasn't right. But it was my son, my only son, and he was looking at me with those eyes full of hope, those eyes I had known since he was born. How could I deny him something that, according to him, was going to change his life? How could I be the selfish mother who closed the door on his future? So I said yes. I transferred $150,000 to Vanessa's account. Ethan hugged me so tightly that day. He told me, "You're the best mom in the world. Vanessa and I will never forget this. We'll pay you back very soon, I promise." And I wanted to believe him. God knows how much I wanted to believe him. The first 3 months after that loan were strange. Ethan called me often, excitedly telling me about the boutique. "Mom, you should see the space Vanessa got. It's in an incredible area. We already signed the lease. Mom, the suppliers from Italy already confirmed. We're going to have exclusive clothes that no one else in the city has. Mom, the store's social media already has 5,000 followers, and we haven't even opened." I listened, trying to feel his enthusiasm, trying to convince myself I had made the right decision. But they never invited me to see the space. They never showed me pictures. They never included me in anything related to this business that I was funding with the sweat of 40 years of work. When I asked Ethan, he always had an excuse. "Oh, Mom, it's still under renovation. It's better if you wait until it's all ready so you can be really impressed." Or, "Vanessa wants it to be a surprise for the grand opening." A surprise. That word should have alerted me, but I kept trusting. The boutique supposedly opened 4 months later. Ethan sent me a photo via text message. It was the facade of a small store with an elegant sign that said V&E Fashion. The initials for Vanessa and Ethan. They didn't even invite me to the opening. When I asked my son why, he said it had been a very intimate event, just with investors and partners. I was the main investor, but apparently I didn't qualify to be there. The 6 months Ethan had promised passed. Then 8 months passed. 10 months. A year. Every time I brought up the topic of repaying the money, my son got nervous. "Mom, the business is going well, but you know how it is at the beginning. We have to reinvest everything. Just give me a little more time. Vanessa says we'll have enough cash flow in a few months." I would nod, feeling a growing weight in my chest, but not wanting to pressure him. Not wanting to be the annoying, nagging mother. That was when the second request came. Ethan and Vanessa came to my house together this time. It was the first time she had set foot in my home since that awkward dinner 2 years earlier. Vanessa sat on my sofa with a smile that didn't reach her eyes and said, "Monica, we need to talk about an opportunity we can't pass up." She called me Monica, not Mom or Mrs., just Monica, as if I were a casual acquaintance. It turned out, according to them, they had found the perfect apartment, a place in an exclusive part of the city where they wanted to live together and eventually get married. The apartment cost $200,000. They already had $100,000 saved between them, they said. But they needed the other $100,000 to close the deal. If they didn't act fast, they would lose it. Vanessa spoke for 20 minutes about the property value in the area, about how it was a smart investment, about how the apartment would appreciate by 30% in 2 years. I looked at them, both sitting on my sofa, my old, worn-out sofa with the sagging cushions. I looked at them in my small living room with its walls that needed paint and curtains that were 15 years old. And they were asking me for $200,000 for an apartment in an exclusive area. Something inside me stirred uncomfortably, but Ethan took my hand and said, "Mom, when Vanessa and I get married, you'll have your own room there. It'll be your home, too. We'll never leave you alone." Those words, those damn words, broke me. The idea of not being alone, of having a place in my son's life, of being included, of being loved, I gave in. I took another $200,000 from my savings. Vanessa barely thanked me. She just said, "Perfect. I'll tell the real estate agent we're closing the deal," and left my house, checking her phone. Ethan stayed a moment longer, hugged me, and whispered, "You're amazing, Mom." But his hug already felt different, mechanical. Obligatory. They bought the apartment. They sent me a picture of the elegant building with a doorman and everything. They never invited me to see it. When I asked when I could visit, Ethan told me they were still furnishing it, that as soon as it was ready, they'd invite me. Months passed. The invitation never came. I had now loaned them $350,000, more than half of my life's savings. And I hadn't seen a single penny back. I hadn't even seen the inside of the boutique or the apartment that was supposedly going to have my own room. Ethan's visits became even rarer, once every 2 months, sometimes every 3, and always in a hurry. He'd arrive, give me a quick kiss on the cheek, ask me how I was without really listening to the answer, and leave. I would try to make him stay. "Son, stay for dinner. I made your favorite," but he always had excuses. "Vanessa's waiting for me. We have a dinner with her parents. We have to go to a business meeting. Always Vanessa. Always other plans. Never time for me." Then came the third request, and this one was the most shameless. Vanessa wanted a car. Not just any car, a brand new Mercedes-Benz. "I need to project success to attract high-level clients," she told me over the phone, as if it were the most logical thing in the world. The car cost $100,000. This time, they didn't even come to ask me in person. Ethan called me on a Tuesday night and just dropped it. "Mom, I know it's a lot, but it's essential for the business. Vanessa's clients are people with money. If she shows up in an old car, they won't take her seriously." I stayed silent, holding the phone, feeling something breaking inside me. Old car. I didn't even have a car. I had never owned one. I had always used public transportation for 40 years. And my son was asking me for $100,000 so his girlfriend could have a Mercedes. Ethan interpreted my silence as doubt and quickly added, "Besides, Mom, we already owe you a lot. With this loan, the business will definitely take off and we'll be able to pay you back everything at once, I swear." I should have said no. I should have screamed no. I should have hung up the phone. But there was a part of me still clinging to hope. A part that believed if I made this one last sacrifice, my son would go back to being the boy who hugged me and told me I was his heroine. So, I transferred the $100,000. Ethan didn't even come to thank me. He just sent me a text. "Thanks, Mom, you're the best." Vanessa posted photos on social media with her new Mercedes. She was wearing expensive sunglasses and smiling radiantly. The caption read, "Hard work pays off. Hard work." My blood boiled when I read that. She hadn't worked a single hard day in her life. I paid for that car, with 40 years of real hard work. It was my neighbor, Regina, who opened my eyes. Regina had lived in the house next door for 20 years. She was a 60-year-old woman with a strong personality and a special skill for detecting lies. One Saturday afternoon, we were having coffee in my kitchen when I told her everything. I told her about the $350,000, the broken promises, how my son barely visited me anymore, how Vanessa treated me like a stranger. Regina looked at me intently, put her cup down on the table, and said, "Monica, wake up. They are using you. That woman doesn't have any real business. I've seen her social media. All she posts are pictures in expensive restaurants, with expensive jewelry, with designer clothes. That's not a businesswoman. That's someone spending someone else's money. Your money." I tried to defend them. "Maybe it's part of her job, Regina. She needs to project a certain image." But Regina shook her head. Monica, I owned a business for 30 years. I know what someone who really works looks like. And that girl isn't working. She's spending. Her words stayed in my head for days. I started checking Vanessa's social media, something I had never done before, and what I saw turned my stomach. Photos in Paris. Photos in Miami. Photos at restaurants where the menu probably cost what I earned in a week when I was working. Photos with handbags that I recognized from magazines because they cost over $10,000 each. And in every photo, the caption was something like, "Living my dreams," or "Hard work pays off," or "Grateful for this life." There was one particular photo that made me nauseous. Vanessa wearing a spectacular diamond necklace. The caption read, "My love spoiled me with this beauty. Thank you for loving me like this." The comments underneath were from hundreds of women envying her, saying, "You're so lucky," or "Your boyfriend is amazing." But I knew the truth. Ethan hadn't paid for that necklace with his salary as a sales manager. I paid for that necklace with my money, with my years of sacrifice. And she was showing it off as if it were a romantic gift from my son. Something broke in me that day. I called Ethan. He answered after 5 rings with an impatient voice. "What's up, Mom? I'm busy." I asked him directly, "Son, when are you going to start paying me back the money?" There was a long silence. Then I heard voices in the background. Vanessa's voice saying, "Is it your mom again?" And then Ethan replied, "Mom, we already talked about this. The business needs time. I can't be talking about money all the time. It brings bad energy." Bad energy. My son was talking to me about bad energy. I told him I needed to see the boutique, that after a year and a half of funding it, I deserved to at least see it. Ethan stammered, Sure, Mom. Yeah, we'll coordinate one of these days. But I have a lot of work right now. Let me check my schedule and I'll call you." He never called me. A week later, I tried again. His phone rang and rang until it went to voicemail. I sent him a text. "Son, I need to talk to you urgently. It's important. Please call me." Nothing. I tried the next day. Nothing. It was as if I had disappeared. It was Regina who suggested I go directly to the boutique's address. "Monica, go yourself. Find out what's really going on." So, one Thursday morning, I took 2 buses to the address Ethan had given me over a year ago. When I arrived, what I saw left me frozen. The location existed, yes, but it was empty. Completely empty. There was a "For Rent" sign in the window. The lights were off. Through the dirty glass, I could see a vacant space with wires hanging from the ceiling and water stains on the walls. I went into the coffee shop next door and asked the owner, an older man, what had happened to the boutique. He looked at me with pity. "That shop closed about 8 months ago, ma'am. I think it was only open for 3 or 4 months. I never saw many customers. The owner was a young, very well-dressed girl, but she was hardly ever here. She'd come by every once in a while, take some pictures, and leave. One day, she just didn't open again, and the owner of the building put the 'For Rent' sign back up. Closed for 8 months. 8 months, and Ethan had never told me. He kept telling me the business was going well, that they just needed more time. I sat in that coffee shop for 2 hours, trying to process what I had just discovered. They had closed the boutique 8 months ago. That meant when they asked me for money for the car 5 months ago, there was no longer any business. There was no reason for the loan. They had lied to me. Blatantly lied. I returned to my house feeling like I was walking through a nightmare. Regina saw me arrive, and just by looking at my face, she knew something terrible had happened. We went into her house, and I told her everything, crying. Regina hugged me and said with a firm voice, "This isn't just irresponsibility. This is fraud. You have to get your money back. You have to do something before they leave you with nothing." That night, I tried to call Ethan 10 times. He didn't answer once. I sent him messages. "Son, I need to talk to you. Urgent. It's important. Please call me." Nothing. It was as if I didn't exist. As if, after taking $450,000 from me, I could now be completely discarded. The next day, I went directly to the apartment where they supposedly lived. The building was just like in the photos. Elegant. With a uniformed doorman. I told the doorman I was there to visit my son, Ethan. He checked his list and let me up. I went up to the 11th floor. I rang the doorbell. I heard movement inside. Steps approaching. Then Vanessa's voice from inside asking, "Who is it?" "It's me, Monica, Ethan's mother." Silence. A long silence. Then her cold voice. "Ethan's not here, and I'm clearly not welcome, so please leave." She didn't open the door. She didn't even have the decency to open the door and say it to my face. I shouted through the door, "Vanessa, I need to talk to you about the money I loaned you. I need to know when you're going to start paying me." Her laugh. I heard her laugh from the other side. A cruel, dismissive laugh. Then she said, "Monica, that money was a gift. An investment in our future together. No one asked you to give us anything. You did it because you wanted to. Now please leave before I call security." I just stood there, in front of that closed door, feeling 40 years of work turning into nothing. Into less than nothing. Into a joke. I left the building in shock. The doorman looked at me with pity, as if he knew exactly what kind of situation I had just experienced. I walked for blocks, aimlessly, not knowing what to do, not knowing how I had gotten to this point in my life. When I got to my house, Regina was waiting for me on my porch. She saw me and just said, "Get inside. I have to show you something." We went in, and she pulled out her phone. "Monica, look at this. I found more photos of Vanessa. It was a post from just 2 days ago. Vanessa, in a luxurious restaurant with a bottle of champagne that clearly cost hundreds of dollars. The caption read, 'Celebrating soon to be a married woman. The wedding of my dreams is just around the corner.'" The wedding. They were getting married, and I didn't even know. My son hadn't told me anything. Nothing about an engagement. Nothing about a date. Nothing about plans. And there was his fiancée, posting it on social media for the whole world to know, except for me. I felt as if my heart had been ripped out of my chest. Regina took my hands and said in a serious voice, "Monica, you need a lawyer. This has gone too far." That night, I couldn't sleep. I tossed and turned in my bed, thinking about everything. About 40 years of work. About $650,000 I had saved, penny by penny. About $450,000 I had handed over, trusting blindly. About a son who no longer answered my calls. About a daughter-in-law who had slammed the door in my face and laughed at me. About a wedding I wasn't even invited to. Something changed in me that night. Something deep and permanent. The next morning, I called Regina and said, "Find me a lawyer. The best one you know." She smiled. "I already did. His name is Benjamin. Benjamin Pierce. He specializes in familial fraud and asset recovery. He's expensive, but they say he's ruthless. If anyone can help you, it's him." That same afternoon, I was sitting in an elegant office across from a man in his 50s with an impeccable suit and a piercing gaze. Benjamin listened to me for an hour without interrupting. I showed him all the bank transfer receipts. I showed him the text messages from Ethan promising to pay me back in 6 months, a year at most. I showed him the social media photos of Vanessa flaunting her luxuries. I told him about the closed boutique, about the apartment I was never invited to, about the $100,000 car. When I finished, Benjamin leaned back in his chair and said, "Mrs. Monica, you have a solid case for fraud. These people emotionally manipulated you to obtain your money under false pretenses. I can help you, but I need you to understand something. If we do this, your relationship with your son will probably never be the same." Those words hit me, but then I thought, what relationship? What relationship did I have with a son who didn't answer my calls? Who lied to me? Who allowed his girlfriend to humiliate me? Who had erased me from his life after taking almost everything I had? I told Benjamin, "Do what you have to do. I want my money back." He nodded. "We're going to need a private investigator. Someone to document their lifestyle. To prove there's no real business. To track exactly what they spent your money on. It will cost money, but it will be worth it." I hired the investigator, a man named Mark, who had been a forensic accountant for 20 years. Mark worked for 3 weeks. He presented me with a report that left me speechless. The boutique had only been open for 4 months. Total sales in those 4 months were barely $32,000. Of the $150,000 I had loaned, $80,000 went to renovating the space with over-the-top, unnecessary materials. $30,000 on clothing inventory that was never sold and ended up being liquidated. $20,000 on opening parties and public relations events. And $20,000 simply disappeared into personal expenses that Vanessa charged as business costs. They did buy the apartment, yes, but they put it only in Vanessa's name. Ethan did not appear on any property documents. My son had used my $200,000 to buy his girlfriend an apartment where he had no legal rights. Mark also tracked the couple's spending over the last 2 years. Trips to Europe for $15,000. Restaurants and nightlife for over $30,000 cumulative. Jewelry and designer clothes for another $50,000. An engagement ring that cost $25,000. All paid for with my money. With the money that was supposed to be for a business, for their future, for something productive. Benjamin reviewed the report and said, "Ma'am, they defrauded you. They systematically bled you dry. This was planned." Vanessa saw a single woman with savings and decided that money was hers. And your son. Either he's an accomplice, or he's so manipulated it doesn't matter. Now comes the important question. What do you want to do? We can send them a demand letter, we can go straight to a lawsuit, or we can do something more dramatic, something that forces them to publicly confront what they did. I asked him what he had in mind. Benjamin smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. It was a strategic one. You told me they're getting married soon. Probably spending more of your money on a lavish wedding. What if we show up there, at the wedding, in front of all their guests, and expose exactly what they did? Social pressure can be more effective than any lawsuit, especially with people like Vanessa, who live for appearances. The idea terrified me and thrilled me at the same time. To destroy my own son's wedding. To expose the family to public shame. It was something I never imagined I would do. But then I thought about everything. About my aching knees from so many years of standing in the office. About my hands that never knew expensive creams because I couldn't afford them. About the vacations I never took. The clothes I never bought. The 40 years I gave to build that $650,000. And how 2 unscrupulous people had stolen almost all of it in less than 2 years. I told Benjamin, do it. Find out when and where the wedding is. We'll be there. He nodded, and for the next 2 weeks, he and Mark worked like detectives. They discovered the wedding would be at an exclusive venue in the city. 200 guests. Estimated cost of the celebration, $80,000. 80,000 more of my dollars being spent on a party. Benjamin got a copy of the guest list through his contacts. My name wasn't on it. The groom's mother was not invited to her own son's wedding. That confirmation was what finally hardened my heart. Regina came to my house the night before the wedding. "Monica, are you sure about this? Once you do it, there's no turning back." I told her, "Regina, I spent 40 years being the good woman, the woman who sacrificed, the woman who said yes to everything. And look where it got me. My own son robbed me and erased me from his life. I'm not going to be that woman anymore. Tomorrow, I'm getting my voice back, and they are going to hear me, whether they want to or not." On the day of the wedding, I put on my best dress. It wasn't much, a gray dress I had bought on sale 5 years ago. But I wore it with dignity. Regina insisted on coming with me. Benjamin and Mark would be there too. We arrived at the venue 2 hours after the ceremony had started. We waited strategically for the service to end and the reception to begin. We wanted the moment of maximum impact. When all the guests were gathered, celebrating, we walked into the ballroom. It was spectacular. Flowers everywhere. Elegant lighting. Tables decorated with champagne-colored tablecloths and centerpieces that probably cost more than I used to earn in a month. A live band was playing soft music. Waiters with trays of champagne and appetizers circulated among the guests. And there, in the center, were they. Ethan in a suit that surely cost $5,000. Vanessa, in an ivory wedding dress full of sparkling jewels, dragging an endless train. I saw them laugh. I saw them dance. I saw them receive congratulations from elegant people, and I thought, I paid for all of this. Every flower, every glass of champagne, every note from that band. All with my money, with my life. Benjamin gently touched my shoulder. Mrs. Monica, it's time. Are you ready? I nodded. Regina squeezed my hand. I walked toward the center of the ballroom. My heart was beating so hard I thought everyone could hear it. The waiters looked at me strangely. Some guests began to notice my presence. An older woman in a simple dress, walking resolutely toward the head table where the bride and groom were. Ethan saw me first. His face went from flushed to pale in a matter of seconds. "Mom, what are you doing here?" he whispered, trying to keep anyone else from hearing. But I hadn't come all this way to whisper. I raised my voice, just enough for the nearby tables to hear. "I came to ask your wife a question, Ethan." The music was still playing, but some of the musicians began to play softer, as if sensing something important was about to happen. Vanessa turned to me. Her perfectly made-up face showed surprise first, and then contained fury. "Monica, you weren't invited. You need to leave. Now." And that's when I said it. The words I had rehearsed 1,000 times in my head. "So, when are you going to give me back my $600,000? My voice echoed in the ballroom. The music stopped completely. The silence was so absolute you could hear glasses clinking. 200 people froze, staring at us. Ethan stood up so fast his chair fell backward with a loud thud. "Mom, shut up. No one owes you anything. No one is giving you anything back. You're making a fool of yourself. Leave now before I call security." But I didn't move. $600,000. "I loaned you," I repeated, louder. $150,000 for a boutique that closed in 4 months. $200,000 for an apartment that you put only in her name. $100,000 for a luxury car. And now I see another $80,000 for this wedding that I wasn't even invited to. $450,000 that you promised to pay back and that you spent on luxuries while I'm still living in the same small house, not even having bought a new pair of shoes in 3 years. The murmurs exploded across the ballroom. I heard voices. "Is that true? $600,000? The groom's mother? How horrible." Ethan tried to grab my arm. "Let's go outside. Let's talk outside." But I yanked myself free. "No, Ethan. Let's talk here. In front of all your guests. In front of all these people who think you're a successful, self-made couple. Let them know that all of this was paid for by a 64-year-old woman who worked for 40 years of her life and was robbed by her own son and his manipulative girlfriend." Vanessa took a step toward me. Her eyes were flashing. "You gave us that money voluntarily. No one forced you. They were gifts. Investments you made because you wanted to. You have no right to come here and ruin my wedding with your bitter old woman delusions." The phrase "bitter old woman" rang in my ears. That's how she saw me. As a nuisance. As someone she could mock. It was then that Benjamin stood up from the back of the ballroom, tall, imposing, in his flawless black suit. He walked slowly toward us, as all eyes shifted from me to him. He stopped next to me and spoke with a clear, professional voice that filled every corner of the room. "I think everyone here deserves to know the truth about this $600,000. My name is Benjamin Pierce. I am an attorney specializing in familial fraud, and I have in my possession bank receipts for every transfer Mrs. Monica made to Miss Vanessa and Mr. Ethan over the last 2 years." He pulled a thick folder from his briefcase. "I also have text messages and emails where both of them explicitly promised to repay the money within specific timelines. I have a forensic report that proves the boutique, which supposedly justified the first loan of $150,000, closed after only 4 months of operation with total losses. I have evidence that the apartment, purchased with $200,000 of Mrs. Monica's money, was put solely in Miss Vanessa's name, excluding my client's son from any property rights. And I have a complete spending trace that proves a large portion of that money was spent on travel, personal luxuries, and this very celebration." The ballroom erupted. It wasn't murmurs anymore. It was loud voices. Scandal. Vanessa's mother, an elegant woman in a gold dress, jumped up, shouting, "That's a lie. My daughter is a successful businesswoman." Vanessa's father, a bulky man with a hard face, walked toward Benjamin. "Who the hell are you to come in here with these accusations?" Ethan's friends were looking at him with faces of shock and disappointment. "Ethan, man, is that true? You scammed your mom out of $500,000? Ethan was as pale as a ghost. He tried to speak, but no words came out. Vanessa, on the other hand, quickly regained her composure. "This is a huge misunderstanding," she said in a firm voice, trying to control the situation. "Monica is confused. She gave us that money as gifts because she wanted to support us. Now she's regretting it and inventing this story that they were loans. It's a sad situation, but we are not going to let her ruin our special day." Mark stood up then. He had been sitting at another table, observing everything. He walked to the front, a tablet in his hand. "Ladies and gentlemen, I am a forensic accountant. I have analyzed every transaction, every message, every promise, and I can assure you, this is no misunderstanding. This is systematic, premeditated fraud." He showed the tablet to some of the guests nearby. "Here you can see the messages where Mr. Ethan textually promises, 'I'll pay you back in 6 months, Mom. I swear.' And here's another one that says, 'I need you to trust us. You will get back every cent with interest.'" The guests started getting up from their tables, moving closer to see the evidence. It was total chaos. Ethan finally found his voice. "Mom, please don't do this. We can fix this. We can talk. I'll pay you everything, I swear, but please don't ruin my wedding." Now he was begging me. Now that he was exposed in front of everyone, he was begging. Where were those pleas when I was calling him and he wouldn't answer? Where was that son who promised to pay me back when they were slamming the door in my face? I answered him with a voice I didn't recognize as my own. A hard, cold voice. "You already ruined your own wedding, Ethan. You ruined it the day you decided to steal from your mother. You ruined it every time you lied to me, every time you ignored my calls, every time you allowed this woman to humiliate me. I didn't come here to destroy anything. I came to tell the truth. And the truth, Ethan, is that you turned into someone I don't recognize. Someone capable of watching his own mother lose her life savings and not feel a single shred of remorse." Vanessa then completely lost her composure. She screamed in a shrill voice, "You are a ridiculous old woman. No one is going to believe you. This is all a pathetic show because you can't stand to see your son happy with me." She took a step toward me, pointing her finger, and screamed louder, "Get out of my wedding." Her mother tried to calm her. "Vanessa, control yourself." But Vanessa was out of control. The years of acting, of being the perfect daughter-in-law, collapsed in seconds. Then she screamed something that doomed her completely. "That money was mine anyway. An old woman like you. What do you need so much money for? You were just going to die alone in that horrible house. At least we put it to good use." The ballroom fell into a deathly silence. Even her own parents stared at her in horror. Ethan closed his eyes as if he wanted to disappear. Vanessa had just admitted everything in front of 200 people. Benjamin didn't waste a second. He held up his phone and said clearly, "This is all being recorded. Every word you just said, Miss Vanessa, will be used as evidence in the legal proceedings we will be filing tomorrow morning." Vanessa realized, too late, what she had done. Her face went from red with rage to white with panic. No, that's not what I meant. I was upset. You can't use that." Ethan tried to grab her arm, but she shoved him away. "This is all your fault," she shrieked. "Your crazy mother ruined everything. You should have controlled her from the beginning." Ethan looked at her as if seeing her for the first time. As if, after 3 years, the mask had finally, completely fallen. Vanessa kept screaming, "Somebody get these people out of here. Call security. This is my wedding. My day. You have no right." But the guests had started to move, not toward us, toward the exits. I heard an older woman say to her husband, "I can't believe we came to celebrate this. That poor lady." A group of young men who looked like Ethan's friends walked past him, shaking their heads. One of them said, "You lost your way, man. This is wrong on every level." Vanessa's parents approached. Her mother tried to save the situation. "Mrs. Monica, I'm sure we can resolve this civilly. You didn't have to come and make this scene." But her father had a different attitude. He looked me up and down with contempt and said, You are going to regret this. I have connections. I have lawyers. I will destroy you for defamation." Benjamin stepped between us. "Sir, I suggest you do not make threats, especially not in front of witnesses. Everything we have presented here is verifiable and documented. If you attempt to intimidate my client, it will only add more charges to the lawsuit." Vanessa's father clenched his fists, but his wife pulled him by the arm. "Let's go. This is a circus. We need to talk to our own lawyers." They dragged Vanessa away, practically carrying her. She was screaming hysterically. "My wedding! They ruined my wedding! My dress! Everything is ruined." But beyond her wounded vanity, I knew that what was truly ruined was her charade. Her carefully constructed image as a successful, sophisticated woman had crumbled in a matter of minutes. I stood there, in the middle of the rapidly emptying ballroom. Waiters were clearing glasses, unsure of what to do. The musicians were packing their instruments. The perfect decor now looked pathetic, like an abandoned stage after the play had ended badly. Ethan was still standing there, alone. His friends had left. Vanessa's parents had left with her. The guests were fleeing as if the place was on fire. My son finally looked at me. There were tears in his eyes. "Mom, how could you? How could you do this to me?" His voice broke. "You ruined everything." Something inside me, that still held a small piece of the mother I used to be, wanted to soften. But the new woman who had been born in these last few weeks responded with firmness. "I didn't ruin anything, Ethan. You did. The day you lied to me. The day you took my money knowing you would never pay it back. The day you stopped answering my calls. The day you allowed that woman to slam the door in my face and laugh at me. You destroyed our relationship. I just came here to expose what you two had already done." He shook his head. "I was going to pay you back, Mom. I swear. I needed more time." Vanessa promised me that when her business took off. As he finished the sentence, he realized how ridiculous it sounded. Even he didn't believe his own lies anymore. Benjamin intervened. "Mr. Ethan, I suggest you get a good lawyer. First thing tomorrow morning, we will be filing a formal lawsuit for fraud, false pretenses, and misappropriation of funds. We have documentation for everything, and after today's performance, we have over 100 witnesses who heard your wife admit to taking the money, knowing Mrs. Monica would eventually die and not need it." Ethan slumped into a chair. He looked destroyed. "Mom, I didn't know Vanessa thought like that. I really believed in the business at first. Then everything got out of control, and I didn't know how to tell you. I was scared. I was ashamed. But I never wanted to hurt you." "Those words might have moved me a month ago, but not anymore," I replied. "Ethan, you had 3 years to tell me the truth. 3 years to apologize. To try to fix things. Instead, you ignored me. You erased me from your life. And you let that woman humiliate me, time and time again. I don't know if I can ever forgive you, but what I do know is that I am getting my money back, even if I have to take every last cent you have." Regina came over and took my arm. "Monica, let's go. You did what you came to do." Benjamin and Mark escorted us to the exit. As I left, I saw the event coordinator talking frantically on the phone, probably trying to find out if the family was still going to pay for all of this. I saw the photographers packing their cameras, wondering if the photos they took would have any value now. I saw the enormous 5-tier wedding cake, which probably cost thousands of dollars, untouched because no one had gotten to cut it. We got into Regina's car. It was only then that I finally let myself feel. My hands were shaking. My heart was pounding. I had exposed my own son in front of everyone. I had destroyed his wedding. I had revealed his worst secrets. And yet, I didn't feel guilty. I felt something like liberation. Like I had been carrying an unbearable weight for 3 years and had finally set it down. Benjamin called me that same night. "Mrs. Monica, the video I recorded already has over 50,000 views. Someone from the guest list also uploaded it to social media. This is going viral. There's going to be a lot of public pressure on them. That helps us." It was strange to think that my humiliation was now public knowledge, but it was also strange to think that thousands of people were on my side. The comments Regina showed me were mostly supportive. That woman is a hero. Good for her, exposing them. How dare they steal from their own mother? The son and that daughter-in-law are shameless. The following days were a whirlwind. Benjamin filed the formal lawsuit. Ethan tried to call me 20 times. I didn't answer once. He sent me long text messages. "Mom, please, let's talk. I can explain everything. I will pay you back every cent, I swear. Just give me a chance." I deleted them without reading them fully. Vanessa also tried to contact me through social media. She sent me a private message that said, "This isn't over. You will pay for what you did. My father has lawyers who will leave you on the street." I forwarded the message to Benjamin. He smiled. Perfect. More evidence of attempted intimidation. A week later, their legal response came. They had hired an expensive law firm. Their strategy was predictable. They claimed all the money had been voluntarily gifted, that I had never specified they were loans, that I was fabricating documents, that I was suffering from age-related memory issues. That last part infuriated me. They were trying to paint me as a senile old woman who couldn't remember things correctly. But Benjamin had messages with dates and times. He had emails. He had bank transfers with memos written by them that said, "temporary loan." Regina became my rock during those days. She came over every afternoon for coffee. She told me stories about her own family to distract me. She reminded me why I was doing this. "Monica, that money is your security. It's your old age. It's your peace of mind. You can't let them steal it." She was right. I was 64 years old. I couldn't go back and work for another 40 years. Those savings were all I had between a dignified retirement and poverty. 2 weeks after the wedding, the first settlement hearing arrived. It was an attempt by the court to resolve the case without a full trial. Benjamin warned me that they would probably offer to return a smaller amount to close the case quickly and avoid more public scandal. "Do not accept anything less than the full amount, plus interest and legal fees," he told me firmly. "They have far more to lose than you do. The media pressure is on your side." We arrived at the courthouse. It was a gray, imposing building that intimidated me at first, but Regina walked beside me, squeezing my hand. "You'll be fine. Just tell the truth." We entered the hearing room. It was smaller than I imagined. A long table, plastic chairs, plain cream-colored walls. On the other side, there they were. Ethan looked emaciated. He had lost weight. He had deep, dark circles under his eyes. He was wearing a suit, but it looked wrinkled, as if he'd put it on without ironing. Vanessa, in contrast, was impeccable. A black pantsuit, hair perfectly styled, flawless makeup. But her eyes looked at me with a hatred so pure, it sent a chill down my spine. Next to them were their lawyers, 2 men in expensive suits who looked bored, as if this was just one of many cases. Vanessa's father was also there. He glared at me from the moment I walked in. The mediator, an older man with thick glasses, asked us to sit. He explained that this was an informal hearing where we would try to reach an agreement without needing a trial. Then he asked their lawyer to present their position. The lawyer spoke in a monotone voice. "My client, Miss Vanessa, maintains that all funds received from Mrs. Monica were voluntary gifts, given in the context of a family relationship. There is no signed document specifying loan terms, no promissory notes, no contracts, just bank transfers that my client reasonably interpreted as family support. Furthermore," he added, "Mrs. Monica is 64 years old, and we have obtained testimonies from neighbors suggesting she has shown signs of confusion and memory problems in the last year." That was a lie, a pure lie. I shot up from my chair. Benjamin put his hand on my shoulder to calm me, but I managed to say, "That is completely false." The mediator raised his hand. "Mrs. Monica, you will have your turn. Please sit." I took a deep breath, trying to control the rage boiling inside me. The lawyer continued. "However, in a gesture of goodwill, my clients are willing to offer a payment of $150,000 as a token of appreciation and to close this matter amicably." $150,000. They had stolen $450,000 and were offering to return a third. Benjamin leaned toward me and whispered, "It's an insult. Don't even consider it." I nodded. It was my turn to speak. Benjamin presented all the documents. The text messages where Ethan said, word for word, "I'll pay you back in 6 months, Mom." The emails where Vanessa wrote, "Thanks for the loan, Monica. This is temporary. We'll pay you back with interest when the business generates profit." The bank receipts. The forensic report from Mark showing there was no real business and the money was spent on personal luxuries. Then, Benjamin showed the video from the wedding. The mediator watched the whole thing. Vanessa's voice was clearly heard. "That money was mine anyway. An old woman like you, what do you need so much money for?" The mediator took off his glasses and cleaned them slowly. Then he looked at their lawyer. "Counselor, this video is rather conclusive. Your client publicly admitted to taking the money with the belief that Mrs. Monica didn't need it due to her age. That doesn't sound like a voluntary gift. That sounds like appropriation, with an after-the-fact justification." Their lawyer shifted uncomfortably. "Your Honor, my client was under extreme emotional distress. Her words were taken out of context." "Context?" Benjamin asked sarcastically. "What context makes saying an older woman doesn't deserve her own money sound good?" Vanessa's father exploded then. "This is ridiculous. My daughter does not have to tolerate this circus. We are a respectable family. I have connections. I can make this lawsuit disappear." The mediator looked at him severely. "Sir, I suggest you control yourself, or I will have to ask you to leave the room. Threats do not help your case." Vanessa finally spoke. Her voice sounded forcedly calm, but you could feel the venom underneath. "I invested time and effort in a relationship with Ethan. I gave up opportunities for him. That money was compensation for everything I sacrificed." The mediator raised an eyebrow. "Compensation? So you admit you received the money as payment for being in a relationship?" Vanessa realized her mistake. No, that's not what I meant." Her lawyer tried to interrupt, but the damage was done. Ethan hadn't said a word during the entire hearing. He was sitting with his head down, staring at his hands. The mediator addressed him directly. "Mr. Ethan, you are Mrs. Monica's son. Do you have anything to say in your defense?" Ethan looked up. Our eyes met for the first time in weeks. I saw something in his eyes. Shame, regret, but also defeat. He spoke in a barely audible voice. "I promised my mom I would pay her back. That's true. At first, I really believed the business would work. But then, everything got complicated. Vanessa said we needed to invest more for it to work. And I believed her. I kept asking my mom for money, thinking we would actually pay it back." He paused. Then he continued, "But about a year ago, I realized there was no real plan. That Vanessa just wanted the money to maintain a lifestyle. And I didn't have the courage to tell my mom. I was scared. I was ashamed. So I just stopped answering her, stopped visiting. I thought if I ignored the problem, it would disappear. I know it was wrong. I know I failed her. But I don't know how to fix it." Vanessa looked at him as if she wanted to kill him. "How dare you throw all the blame on me? You spent that money too. You enjoyed the trips and the dinners." The mediator raised his hand. "Enough. I have heard enough." He gathered his notes and spoke in a formal tone. "Based on the evidence presented, it is clear there was a loan agreement. The messages and emails are explicit. Miss Vanessa's public confession in the video adds an element of admitting to conscious appropriation. And Mr. Ethan's statement confirms he knew he owed his mother the money. My recommendation is that this case proceed to trial if a satisfactory agreement is not reached today." He turned to their lawyer. "Counselor, I suggest you speak with your clients. The offer of $150,000 is insulting, given the evidence. If you go to trial, you will lose, and you will likely face additional penalties for attempted fraud. I will give you 30 minutes to reconsider." We left the room. Benjamin was ecstatic. "We have them, Monica. The mediator is completely on our side. They're going to have to negotiate seriously." I didn't feel ecstatic. I felt tired. Watching my son admit his weakness, his cowardice, had been more painful than I imagined. Regina hugged me. "I know it hurts, Monica, but you are doing the right thing. You can't let guilt make you back down now." 30 minutes later, we went back in. Their lawyer looked less confident. "My clients are willing to increase the offer to $300,000, payable in installments over 5 years." Benjamin shook his head. $450,000, the total amount loaned, plus $100,000 in interest and damages. Total, $550,000. All payable within 1 year, maximum. And the apartment that is in Miss Vanessa's name will be put up as collateral. If they miss a single payment, the apartment is automatically transferred to Mrs. Monica. Vanessa screamed. You're crazy. I am not risking my apartment. That's mine. Benjamin smiled. You bought it with my client's money. It is not yours. It's an asset purchased with misappropriated funds. The mediator nodded. That seems like a reasonable proposal, given the circumstances. What do your clients say, counselor? Their lawyer asked for another recess. They spoke amongst themselves for 20 minutes. Vanessa was gesticulating furiously. Her father looked equally angry. Ethan just nodded at everything like a zombie. Finally, they returned. The lawyer spoke with a tense voice. My clients accept paying the $450,000 plus $50,000 in interest, total $500,000, but in 2 years, not 1. And the apartment as collateral. Benjamin looked at me, waiting for my decision. I looked at Ethan, my son, the boy I had held in my arms, the young man I had raised alone after being widowed. Now he was a broken man, sitting across from me, offering me less than what he owed. Vanessa was glaring at me with pure hatred, but also with fear. She knew she was losing, that her castle of lies had collapsed, that her perfect Instagram life was disintegrating. I said to Benjamin, loud enough for everyone to hear, I accept $500,000. But I want half of it now, $250,000 within 30 days, and the rest in monthly payments over 1 year. Not 2 years, 1 year. And if they are late on a single payment, even by 1 day, the apartment is mine, and the remaining debt accelerates with 20% annual interest. Their lawyer tried to protest. That's usury. Benjamin cut him off. It is not usury. It is a penalty for default. It is completely legal. And given our client's history of lying and evading responsibility, it is more than reasonable. The mediator waited. The lawyer spoke with Vanessa and her father in low tones. Vanessa was crying now, tears running down her perfect makeup. Her father slammed his fist on the table but finally nodded. They had no choice. The evidence was overwhelming. The public scandal had already damaged them. If they went to trial, they would lose everything and also face potential criminal charges for fraud. The lawyer took a deep breath and said, My clients accept the terms. The mediator began to draft the agreement. Every word was important. Every clause was a protection. Benjamin reviewed it, line by line. I was watching Ethan. He hadn't looked up. He hadn't said anything else. When the document was ready, we all had to sign it. My hand was shaking when I took the pen. It wasn't victory I felt. It was pain mixed with relief. I signed. Ethan signed. Vanessa signed with so much force she nearly tore the paper. Her parents signed as guarantors. When we finished, the mediator said, This agreement is binding. You have 30 days for the first payment of $250,000. Failure to comply will result in the specified penalties and immediate legal action. We stood up to leave. Vanessa approached me. Her face was red with rage. She hissed in a low voice, just for me to hear, I hope you're happy, you bitter old woman. You ruined my life. You destroyed my marriage. All for money. I looked her straight in the eye, without blinking. I didn't ruin anything, Vanessa. You did. The day you decided you could steal from a woman who worked 40 years for every single cent. The day you thought that just because you were young and pretty, you had the right to take what wasn't yours. She took a step toward me, as if she was going to hit me. Benjamin stepped between us immediately. Ma'am, I recommend you step back. Any physical contact will be considered assault and will violate the terms of the agreement. Her lawyer pulled her by the arm. Vanessa, let's go. You've done enough damage. She yanked herself free and stormed out of the room like a hurricane. Her father shot me one last warning look before following her. Their lawyer gathered his papers, muttering something about difficult clients. Ethan stayed. Everyone else had left. It was just him and me in that cold, impersonal room. He approached slowly. Mom. His voice broke. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for everything. I know I lost your trust. I know you'll probably never forgive me. But I want you to know that I did love you. I do love you. I got lost. Vanessa manipulated me, but I was weak enough to let her. And that's my fault. Not hers. Mine. I felt tears in my eyes. It was the first time I had cried during this whole process. Ethan was crying too. We just stood there, separated by 3 feet that felt like a chasm. I wanted to hug him. I wanted to tell him everything would be okay, but I couldn't. Not yet. I told him, Ethan, I don't know if I can ever trust you again. You hurt me in a way I never imagined possible. But you are my son, and a part of me will always love you. It's just that now, that love has to come with boundaries, with consequences. I can't keep being the mother who gives everything without receiving even basic respect in return. He nodded, wiping his tears. I understand. I will pay you back every last cent, Mom. Even if I have to work 3 jobs, even if Vanessa leaves me, even if I lose everything, I will pay you back. It's the least I can do. I asked him something I needed to know. Are you going to leave her? He let out a bitter laugh. She already left me. She kicked me out of the apartment last night, said this was all my fault, that I was weak, that I should have controlled my mother from the beginning. So yeah, it's over. It probably has been for a long time, but I was just too blind to see it. He paused, then added, I'm living at a friend's house now. I lost my job. The company found out about the scandal and said I didn't represent their values. So, I'm jobless, wifeless, homeless. And, without my mom. That last sentence broke my heart. I told him, Ethan, you didn't lose me completely. But you did lose me as the woman you could manipulate. As the mother who said yes to everything. That woman is gone. If you want to get a relationship back with me, it's going to have to be different. With honesty, with respect, with clear boundaries. He nodded. I'll do whatever it takes, Mom. Benjamin appeared at the door. Mrs. Monica, we have to go. There's press outside. The case has become very public. I looked at Ethan one last time. Take care of yourself, son, he whispered. You too, Mom. We left the courthouse, and sure enough, there were reporters. Cameras, microphones in my face. Mrs. Monica, how do you feel after winning the case? Are you going to forgive your son? What message do you have for other people in similar situations? Benjamin shielded me, pushing through the crowd. Regina took my other arm. We got to the car, and I could finally breathe. The next few days were strange. The case was all over the news. Mother sues son and daughter-in-law for $500,000 fraud. Elderly woman crashes wedding to reclaim stolen savings. Bride admits on video to taking money because old woman didn't need it. The comments on social media were in the thousands. Most of them supported me. Some criticized me for publicly shaming my son, but I didn't care about the opinions of strangers. What mattered was that I had gotten my voice back. The first payment arrived exactly 30 days later. $250,000, transferred to my account. Benjamin verified that everything was in order. Vanessa had to sell the Mercedes. She had to sell all her jewelry. Her father had to lend her money. But they paid. Ethan got a new job, one that paid less, but it was all he could find with his damaged reputation. He sent me messages every week. Mom, I made this month's payment. Mom, I hope you're doing well. Mom, I miss you. I would respond briefly. Thank you. I am fine. Take care. The months passed. Each payment arrived on time. Vanessa and Ethan officially divorced 4 months later. She left the city, moved back with her parents in another state where no one knew her. She deleted all her social media accounts. The woman who lived for appearances could no longer keep up any. Ethan stayed, working, paying every month, keeping his word. I used part of the recovered money to finally fix up my house. I painted the walls. I replaced the old furniture. I bought myself new clothes. I allowed myself small luxuries I had never had. Regina and I became even closer. She introduced me to her group of friends, women my age who had lived similar lives, who understood sacrifice, who understood what it was like to be used by family. I found a community I never knew I needed. A year after the agreement, the last payment arrived. Ethan called me. "Mom, I made the last transfer. It's all paid. $500,000, complete." I checked my account. It was true. I said, "Thank you for keeping your word, Ethan." He asked, his voice trembling, Can we see each other? I'd like to talk to you. In person. No lawyers. Just you and me." I agreed to see him. We met at a small coffee shop near my house, a neutral place. When I arrived, he was already there. He looked different. Thinner. More serious. There was something in his eyes that wasn't there before. Maturity, maybe. Or just the weight of consequences. We sat across from each other with 2 cups of coffee between us. The silence was awkward at first. Then Ethan spoke. "Mom, I know paying back the money doesn't fix what I did. It doesn't erase the pain I caused you. But I want you to know, this last year was the hardest of my life, and I needed it. I needed to hit rock bottom to understand who I had become." He told me what his life had been like since the ruined wedding, how he lost friends, how his extended family judged him, how he had to work 2 jobs for months to scrape the money together, how he lived in a tiny room, sharing an apartment with 3 other people, how he learned to cook his own food, wash his own clothes, live with the bare minimum. Everything I had done for 40 years, he was just learning now. "It was like seeing the real world again, Mom," he continued. "Vanessa had me living in a bubble, where the only thing that mattered was image, what people thought, having more than everyone else. And I let myself get carried away because it made me feel important, successful, but it was all fake, built on your money, on your sacrifice." I asked him if he regretted marrying her. He thought for a moment. "I regret how I was when I met her, for not seeing the red flags. But I can't completely regret it, because that relationship taught me who I don't want to be. It showed me the kind of person I had become, and that, as painful as it was necessary." We drank our coffee. We talked for 2 hours. It wasn't a magical reconciliation. There were no hugs or promises that everything would go back to the way it was. But it was honest. It was real. And it was a start. I told him, "Ethan, I forgive you. Not because what you did is okay, but because holding on to this resentment hurts me more than it hurts you. But forgiving doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean we go back to the relationship we had. That relationship is dead. If we're going to build something new, it has to be different, with mutual respect, with clear boundaries, and with the certainty that you will never, ever again see me as someone you can take advantage of." He nodded. "I understand, Mom, and I accept those terms. I'm going to spend the rest of my life proving to you that I've learned." The following months, Ethan visited me once a month. He always called ahead, always asked if it was a good time. He never showed up empty-handed. He'd bring flowers, or pastries, or just, in his time. We would sit in my renovated living room and talk about his job, about his therapy, because he had started seeing a psychologist, about his plans to study something new, about my life, my friends, the places Regina and I visited. One day, he told me he had met someone, a woman who was different from Vanessa, an elementary school teacher, simple, hardworking, with real values. "Mom, I'm not going to bring her to meet you until I'm completely sure she's the right person. And when I do, it's going to be different. There will be no secrets, no lies. I want you to know her, honestly, from the beginning." I told him that sounded good, that I was in no hurry. I was busy building my own new life. With the $500,000 recovered, plus the $150,000 I still had from my original savings, I had my $650,000 back. My security was restored. But more than the money, what I got back was my dignity, my voice, my ability to set boundaries. Regina and I took the trip we had always dreamed of. We went to Europe for a month. We saw Paris, Rome, Barcelona. We ate in good restaurants. We stayed in nice hotels. Not excessive luxury, but comfortable, dignified. I took thousands of photos. I laughed in a way I hadn't laughed in years. When I came back, I had a different glow, people told me. "Monica, You look radiant. Monica, you look so happy. And it was true. For the first time in a long time, I was happy, in an authentic way. Not the happiness of sacrificing for others, but the happiness of living for myself, of honoring the 40 years I worked, of enjoying the fruits of my labor. One day, I received a message from an unknown number. It was Vanessa. It said, "Monica, I know I have no right to ask you for anything, but I need you to know that I am deeply sorry for what I did. I was lost in my own ambition, and I hurt a lot of people. You, especially. I don't expect your forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that I carry the guilt with me every day." I showed the message to Regina. She asked, "Are you going to respond?" I thought about it. Finally, I wrote back, "Vanessa, I accept your apology. I hope you have learned that people are not resources to be exploited. That old age does not make someone worth less or deserving of less respect. I wish for you to find an honest life." She didn't write back. I didn't expect her to. 2 years after that ruined wedding, Ethan invited me to dinner. He brought his girlfriend, Patricia. She was exactly as he had described. Simple, an easy laugh, kind eyes. She worked with underprivileged children, lived in a modest apartment. She wasn't wearing expensive jewelry or designer clothes. And when she spoke to me, she did so with genuine respect. "Mrs. Monica, Ethan has told me everything. I know he made terrible mistakes, but I also see how hard he has worked to change. I'm not here to ask for anything, only to meet you and to tell you that I deeply respect what you did, that you stood up for your dignity. We had dinner, we talked, we laughed." Ethan looked at her differently than how he had looked at Vanessa, not with blind adoration, but with respect, with partnership. Patricia told me about her work, about the kids she taught, about her parents who were retired like me. There was a connection there, something real that hadn't existed with Vanessa. When they left that night, Ethan hugged me at the door. "Thank you for giving me another chance, Mom." I told him, "It's not another chance, son. It's a new beginning. But remember, new beginnings require constant effort, not just words." The following years were a slow but steady reconstruction. Ethan and Patricia got married in a small ceremony in a garden. They asked me to be the matron of honor. It was simple, beautiful, no fanfare, with the people who truly mattered. I was there. I was in the front row. I did participate in their special day. And this time, it was honest. This time, it was real. They had a daughter 2 years later. My granddaughter. A beautiful little girl who has my name as her middle name, Sophia Monica. Ethan asked my permission before naming her. "I want her to know where she gets her strength from," he told me. I kept living my life. I invested my money wisely, with the help of a financial advisor. I traveled somewhere new every year. Regina and I became inseparable. We formed a group of older women who supported each other, who shared stories, who reminded each other that their value didn't diminish with age, that they had earned the right to live for themselves. I gave talks at community centers about my experience, about the importance of setting boundaries, about how love doesn't mean letting people walk all over you. Many women would come up to me afterward, crying, telling me they were in similar situations. I listened to them. I gave them Benjamin's contact information. I told them it was never too late to defend their dignity. My story became an example. Not because it was perfect, but because it was real. Because it showed that you can love someone and still demand respect. That forgiving doesn't mean being naive. That rebuilding a relationship after a deep betrayal is possible, but it requires real change from both sides. Ethan kept his word. He never asked me for money again. He never lied to me again. When he needed help with something, he asked honestly and accepted it if I said no. Our relationship never went back to how it was when he was a boy, but it became something better. Something between two adults who respect each other, who love each other with healthy boundaries. I am 70 years old now. 6 years after that, interrupted wedding. My granddaughter, Sophia Monica, is 4 years old, and she tells me, "Grandma, you're my hero." She doesn't understand why yet. But someday, I'll tell her. I'll tell her that her grandmother learned, late in life, that her value didn't depend on how much she gave, but on how much she respected herself. I'll tell her that being kind doesn't mean being weak, that being generous doesn't mean being a fool, and that defending what belongs to you doesn't make you selfish, it makes you dignified. I look back on those 40 years of work, and I no longer see them with bitterness. I see them with pride, because they formed me, they gave me strength. And when the time came to use it, that strength was there. I look at the present, and I see a full life. Not perfect, but mine, built on my own terms, with honest relationships, with clear boundaries, with the freedom to say yes when I want to, and no when I need to. I learned that it is never too late to take your life back. That dignity is priceless. And that sometimes loving someone means teaching them the consequences of their actions, even if it hurts. Ethan thanked me for it years later. Mom, destroying my wedding was the best thing you could have ever done for me. You saved me from a life built on lies. You forced me to grow up. And I learned that being a mother doesn't mean being an endless bank. It doesn't mean sacrificing everything, including your own security. Being a mother means raising children who respect you, who value what you do for them, who understand that your love has a value that can't be measured in dollars, but it definitely cannot be stolen without consequences. This is my story. The story of a woman who got her voice back when everyone thought it was too late. And if there's one thing I want others to learn from this, it's simple. Never let anyone, not even your own family, take away what you worked your entire life to build. Your money matters, your effort matters, but above all, you matter.